classroom fell silent, but not for the reasons anyone expected. Mrs. Carter, the strictest teacher in the entire school, leaned over a trembling desk. "If you don't turn this around, you'll fail. And I can't make this any clearer." The boy, messy hair, tired eyes, failing grades, just stared, a hint of defiance hiding beneath layers of fear. Nobody believed in him. Nobody except her. She saw something others didn't. And in that quiet belief, a seed of destiny began to grow. One that would save her life years later in a way she could never imagine. The emergency room was chaos. Monitors beeped frantically, and nurses rushed past her, their eyes wide with panic. Mrs. Carter lay on the gurney, pale and trembling, a fragile whisper against the storm. "Please, help." At the end of the hallway, a young doctor's hands moved with calm precision, scanning every machine, every monitor, every symptom. His name was Ethan, once the worst student in her class, the boy she refused to give up on years ago. Now, he was the only one who could save her. Her eyes widened. Recognition, shock, and in that moment, the years of unspoken belief collided with life itself. Ethan had grown into someone no one expected. His uniform was immaculate, his movements measured. Yet there was a subtle tension in his shoulders, a memory of endless struggle, a lifetime of fighting just to prove he mattered. He glanced at the IV line, at the monitors flashing alarming signs, and something clicked inside him. This was the woman who never gave up. The one who had seen something worth saving in a boy everyone else had written off. And now, she was fighting for her life. And he was the difference between breath and silence. Outside the emergency room, doctors whispered and nurses exchanged uneasy glances. Yet Ethan remained focused, silent, unshakable. There was no room for panic. There was only the patient and the memory of a teacher who once believed in him. Ethan had not always been destined for this moment. In high school, he was known for everything but discipline. His notebooks were scattered, assignments missing, test scores abysmal. Teachers sighed when his name appeared on the attendance sheet. Friends drifted away because he seemed incapable of focus, of effort, of success. But Mrs. Carter was different. She noticed the way Ethan's eyes followed the science diagrams, even when he refused to lift a pencil. She noticed the tiny sparks of curiosity buried beneath layers of frustration and self-doubt. While other teachers scolded, she lingered. She handed him extra worksheets. She stayed after class. She whispered encouragement where no one else would hear. Ethan remembered the smell of chalk dust in her classroom, the quiet hum of the fluorescent lights, and the way her voice carried patience like a shield. He remembered the first test he ever passed. She had smiled, and something inside him had shifted. He realized that belief could be stronger than failure, that someone seeing you could be the difference between giving up and rising up. Yet, high school left scars, teasing, loneliness, the taste of constant disappointment. Ethan carried it all quietly, channeling it into determination. He worked nights, studied in dimly lit corners, memorized medical textbooks the way he had memorized her lessons. Every setback became fuel, every insult a reminder of her belief in him. Now, years later, he walked through the emergency room with steady hands, carrying that same quiet strength. The boy who could not succeed was now the man who could save a life. The hospital was a battlefield of rules and hierarchy. Nurses whispered protocols, older doctors questioned decisions, and the clock ticked relentlessly. Mrs. Carter's condition was deteriorating, but the bureaucracy moved at a glacial pace. "Call a specialist," one nurse said. "They're all busy," another replied. Ethan stood silently, aware that time was slipping like water through his fingers. He knew the diagnosis, knew the treatment path, but he faced subtle resistance. Colleagues who doubted him because he was young, because his record had been clean in reputation, but unknown in battle-tested skill. In the corner, a fellow physician raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure you can handle this?" Ethan didn't answer. He didn't need to. The memory of Mrs. Carter's patience and faith was louder than any doubt. The quiet belief she had instilled in him now demanded action, demanded courage, demanded silent defiance against anyone who dared underestimate him. Every second counted. Machines beeped faster. Nurses' hands shook. The patient's pulse faltered. Ethan moved with a calm that contrasted the chaos, but internally his mind raced. He remembered failing tests, failing classes, failing in front of an entire school, but never in front of her. A subtle hint of irony crossed his mind. How the boy she refused to give up on was now the one refusing to let her slip away. He administered medication with precision, monitored vitals, and recalculated doses on the fly. There was a silent gesture, a subtle clue left in the medical chart from years earlier. A study Mrs. Carter had insisted he complete, a test of critical thinking. It became the key to the correct diagnosis. The unspoken connection between teacher and student bridged decades and life-threatening uncertainty. Outside the room, colleagues whispered doubts. Yet Ethan moved as if time slowed, each decision deliberate, each hand steady. The quiet resistance to panic and disbelief was his power. And it was about to tip the scales. Ethan administered the final intervention. A steady rise in vitals, a slow return of color to Mrs. Carter's cheeks, and the room transformed. Nurses and doctors froze in awe. The same boy everyone had doubted had turned the tide of life and death. Mrs. Carter opened her eyes, recognition flooding her gaze. "Ethan?" "Yes," he said softly. "You believed in me once. I'm just returning the favor." A few colleagues approached, hesitant, eyes wide with newfound respect. The authority of the emergency room hierarchy shifted, not because of yelling or command, but because of undeniable skill, quiet confidence, and moral righteousness. The power dynamic had changed. The one who once needed saving had become the savior, guided by the seeds of faith sown years ago. The emergency room fell silent. The chaos replaced by an almost sacred stillness. Nurses, doctors, even the hospital janitor all stood back, watching the quiet victory unfold. Mrs. Carter's hand trembled as it reached for Ethan's, a gesture that said more than words ever could. Outside the room, patients and visitors paused, sensing the magnitude of what had just occurred. A quiet respect, a public acknowledgement, a moral victory that needed no fanfare. It was complete. Ethan stepped back, allowing the team to take over. But the weight of the moment settled on every heart present. A failing student had saved the life of the teacher who refused to give up on him. And in that act, justice, recognition, and the enduring power of belief converged. Life has a way of testing faith in the quietest moments. Mrs. Carter had shown that belief, patience, and silent faith could change a life. Ethan had proven that those seeds, when nurtured, could grow into a force capable of saving lives. Literally. Sometimes the heroes are not the loudest, not the most celebrated, but those who act with unwavering conviction, whose silent strength carries the weight of love, gratitude, and destiny. Take a moment now. Look around you. Who believes in you when no one else does? And who might you silently lift in return? Comment below where you're watching from, share your thoughts on this story, and subscribe for more tales that honor true, silent heroes. Because belief can change destinies, and destiny sometimes comes quietly, in the hands of those who refuse to give up.